Welcome to our Qigong coaching clinic. I am thrilled to see you here, and I am happy to share with you some of the ideas about letting go of unnecessary fears. What kind of fears do we experience? If we experience any fears, what are they? Well, often when we talk about unnecessary or undue fears, those are not really associated with what we experience in front of us. It's often something that we have worries or concerns about. Often they appear to be more like an anxiety about the unknown future or something that stops us from taking action. For example, if we have certain idea that we want to pursue or a certain dream that we would like to manifest, often we end up being stuck because we are not sure what's going to happen, or we may be somewhat afraid that something wrong is going to happen, right? Well, it's not always a bad thing to have a little bit of an insight of what may happen. The challenge with that is that often this insight is incorrect. In other words, oftentimes we have undue fears because what we imagine is going to happen is not really a correct assumption of what is going to occur in the future. We don't really know the future, and so often we basically shoot ourselves in the foot when we make assumptions about the future that are incorrect, right? Well, often we imagine the future that is more bleak or more undesirable or more painful than what actually lies ahead. In other words, future hasn't happened yet. So by definition, it's a daydream, right? If it's a daydream, we are daydreaming about what we don't want to experience. That's basically what happens when we imagine things that we become afraid of. We also become afraid of things that we just don't know what's going to happen. And so often develop, again, a certain assumptions that, well, if we don't know what's going to happen, something wrong may happen. Okay, well, that's another example of a projection onto the future of certain things that we experienced perhaps in the past. Something wrong happened in the past. And then we translate that into an image or into a daydream related to what may happen in the future. Well, if we're daydreaming and we're turning it into a fearful daydream, well, that's kind of like creating a nightmare of sorts, right? Except we're not asleep. So we are daydreaming while awake, but we're creating a nightmare. How do we deal with a nightmare like that? Well, one of the simple ways to deal with it is to actually realize that nobody's doing it to us. We are doing it ourselves. So if we are doing this to ourselves, do we want to keep doing it? If this is our own creation, the nightmare is not something that is done to us by somebody else. It's actually something that we do ourselves in our own mind. We just do it unconsciously in most cases. So what would happen if we actually became conscious of the fact that we are making this nightmare up in our own minds? What would happen if we actually became lucid in this dream? Well, we would probably experience much more coherent and potentially more pleasant dream. Would we want to experience more pleasant dream? Well, I bet we would. Who wouldn't want to experience a more pleasant dream? How do we make it so that we would be able to experience a more pleasant dream? Well, it basically is a matter of reminding ourselves that we are dreaming when we're having a dream. That's by definition the experience of lucidity. It's just like a lucid dream at night. When you're having a nightmare, wouldn't you want to become aware of the fact that you are creating a nightmare in your own mind? Because then you could exercise the freedom of choice to keep experiencing and suffering from that nightmare, or perhaps get more creative. Since you are the creator of this particular dream, this particular daydream, if you will, well, wouldn't you be able to get more creative than creating a nightmare out of it? Well, that's exactly what I personally learn how to do in my daydreams. If I have a daydream in which I am projecting onto the future a certain sense of discontent, anxiety, worries, or concerns, I remind myself, okay, I'm actually daydreaming right now. How's it working for me to daydream about things that I don't want to experience? And then I give myself an opportunity to decide whether or not I want to daydream about this thing that I don't want to experience, or I would rather refocus my attention. You see, nobody is controlling your attention in your daydreams, nobody controlling my attention in my daydreams. So that's actually an excellent exploration of freedom of choice. What if you actually choose to to focus on something that you resonate better with? How do you know that you resonate with something better? Well, you actually experience less tension in your body because your central nervous system becomes less agitated, sending fewer signals of contraction to the muscles throughout your body, including the breathing muscle, the diaphragm. That means that your breathing actually changes as you change your focus. If you focus on something you don't resonate with and you experience shallow or stressed or unpleasant way of breathing, basically, instead of trying to do breathing exercises, what we learn is how to use breathing as a gauge. We learn how to gauge how well we resonate with something that we focus our attention on by checking how well we breathe. If you're breathing in a shallow and rapid or stressed out manner, well, that's an invitation to check, what am I focusing on? And most likely, in your daydream, you're focusing on something you don't particularly resonate with. You may be focusing on something you don't want to experience or you would rather avoid in the future. Well, since we're talking about the future, we become lucid by definition. We become awake in the dream. Now what happens? We can exercise the freedom of choice, what to focus on. And one of the ways that we can overcome fear is simply by refocusing on things we do resonate with, things that we do appreciate or that we feel grateful for. Now, this is the secret behind the power of gratitude. I wouldn't be the first person to talk about how powerful gratitude can be and how it can enhance or improve the quality of your life. But how do we actually experience more gratitude? Well, in order to experience more gratitude, we actually simply learn to recognize that there are certain things that we resonate with. In other words, gratitude is this sense of recognition of energy resonance. When you resonate with something, of course, you experience a greater sense of gratitude that you have this in your life. If you don't resonate with something and it makes you cringe or makes you feel more stressed, well, obviously, you're going to experience less gratitude. And it's not black and white, it's on the scale. So if you imagine the scale of different things that you may resonate more with or less with, obviously, very few things on this scale are going to be perfectly resonating with you. Also, you probably never experience things that you have zero resonance with because you just never come across them. In order to experience anything, there has to be at least some degree of resonance with that anyway. So what we do then is we simply start assessing how well am I resonating with this thing, and let's compare it with how well I resonate with that thing, whatever that thing may be in your mind. Since it's your daydream, you are totally free to conjure up different things in your dream. If you do it consciously, guess what? You have the freedom of choice to get more creative. It means that you can actually tap into the source of creativity that many people only dream of getting into, quite literally. That's what we're doing. We're learning how to tap into that creative resource. And then we also learn how to experience much greater gratitude because what we're creating is something that we resonate with. And if we don't resonate with it, let's get more creative, or let's refocus attention, find what it is that you would resonate with better. It's your dream. So obviously, you are free to explore and discover for yourself different aspects of this dream that have different degrees of resonance. Now, it's what also is often referred to as the state of enlightenment or nirvana, when you awaken in this big dream we call daily life. You become as lucid in this dream as you can be in your dream at night when you become lucid in that dream. But what if you actually start small? Experience nirvana incrementally. The small baby step to experience nirvana is to actually free yourself from creating nightmares in your own daydreams. Wouldn't it be nice to actually make it so that you don't experience a nightmare of a daydream in the form of anxiety, worries, fears, or other stressful, terrifying sensations? Well, that's exactly what we're learning today. And I'm not going to be just talking. I'm actually going to be walking you through a simple practice, maybe even a couple of practices that will help you relieve fears and replace them with something that maybe it's too ambitious to call it fearlessness, but maybe it's more appropriate to call it courage, because fearlessness kind of entails that there is no fear at all. Well, fear is not a bad thing. It may actually be a necessary recognition that they need to pay attention to something. For example, if you're walking in the woods and you hear some cracking of a large animal stepping on a twig, and you probably will be like, what is that? Now, should you be afraid of a large animal in the woods? Well, that's a really good question. Most people live their entire lives as prey. What's the prey? Prey is an animal that is often being hunted by predators. So, be it a bunny or a gazelle or a sheep or a deer are examples of prey. Of course, there are also various other types of animals, for example, birds that can be eaten by birds of prey. You know, for example, chickens or turkeys or ostriches. What happens is that you can actually tell what kind of bird that is eaten by hunters, by birds of prey, or by predators. Those have eyes on both sides of their heads, looking in two different directions all the time, basically trying to cover as much of the 360 degrees field of vision as possible all at once, because they're constantly on the lookout. If there is a predator coming after them, they want to detect the danger as quickly as possible and run away from it. The ears, the bunnies and antelopes and many other animals that become prey of predators also have ears on top of their heads, and they're constantly scanning the environment for danger. Now, let's look at humans. Do we have ears on top of our heads? No, we don't. Where are our eyes? Are they on both sides of our heads, looking everywhere, trying to look for danger? No, they're not. Our eyes are in front of our faces. They are facing forward, both of them more or less at the same time. What kind of animals have eyes that face forward? They're not prey. They're not animals that are constantly become a victim of hunters or predators. They are predators themselves. Lions, wolves, or birds of prey, eagles, or owls. Where are their eyes? They are in front of their faces. They look forward. They have binocular vision, just like us humans. What does that tell you about us humans? It means we are predators. We are not fucking prey. We actually are supposed to be hunting and killing our animals or birds that we're supposed to eat. We forgot or never figured out our true identity. We, anatomically speaking, evolutionary speaking, we are not prey. We are the predators. As a matter of fact, it would be probably fair to say that humans at this point in time are the apex predator on this planet Earth. We eat everyone, we kill everyone, we destroy everything. We are the predators. So how about we stop acting like prey? How about we get into a different state of consciousness associated with being the hunters? What do hunters do? They don't just walk around through the woods or through the savannah, constantly on lookout for somebody to attack them, so ready to take off or run away. The hunters are opportunists. They look for the prey, picking the low-hanging fruit, which one is easier to catch. That's why predators are also considered very healthy part of the environment, because they actually eat the weak prey. So if the lion goes after a herd of buffalo, it's not going to go after the biggest, strongest buffalo. That would be kind of stupid of a lion. No, it's going to go after the weakest, after the ill, after the ones that need to be culled anyway. So what would we learn is how to stop acting against our own nature. We learn how to act in accordance with our own nature. If our nature is to be hunters, well, let's actually learn how to step into the identity of those animals or of those creatures that are hunters, that are predators. Now, predators, mind you, got some bad rap. Sometimes people say, oh, you are a wolf in a sheep's clothes. And I say, well, you know what, screw you. I am the wolf. I don't even need a sheep's clothes. I'm going to act as a predator because I am one, not in terms of being mean or killing things unnecessarily. I'm acting as a person who is not afraid. A lion walking through the savannah walks like the king of the jungle or king of the savannah. He's not constantly looking out for danger. Well, how about we all learn how to move through life like a lion walking its hunting grounds? What if we learn how to stop being on the lookout for danger, daydreaming all the time that there is something scary lurking around us? Because it's not in our nature anyway. We are the predators. We learn how to stop acting like a prey. So how do we learn how to stop acting like a prey? We actually tap into the energy associated with being the hunter. And we also realize that it's okay to have the energy of fear sometimes. It's not like we have to get rid of it, because if you are one with the universe, where is that energy going to go? There is nowhere to throw it away. You have to integrate it. So it's okay to have energy of fear. It's just you don't have to fly the flag of fear. Instead, you can actually refocus your attention on the identity that would serve you better. Would the identity of being a lion serve you better? Being fearless, or at least courageous, and capable of amazing feats that until today perhaps you were only dreaming of. I hope so. That's what I'm here for, to help you achieve that. So let's figure out how to actually step into the identity of a lion or a wolf or a bird of prey, an eagle. Well, we need to actually first use a little bit of imagination. We were talking about how much we daydream about scary things, about uncertain things that we may be worried about. If we have this power of imagination, well, let's use it. So first, let's consciously imagine walking through the woods or savannah or wherever you choose to imagine being, where there's something that may trigger your fear. And I'm not talking about silly fears like, fear of speaking, public speaking. No, that's a silly fear, uh, easy to overcome. And if you need to help, some help with that, I can definitely help you with that. But we're talking about some fear of something that can actually cause you some harm or be dangerous. Let's connect with that energy of what it's like to actually detect something dangerous around you. Maybe not the total complete terror, but some degree of fear or concern for your safety or some certain degree of worry that, maybe you're on the wrong side of the tracks, so to speak. And let's imagine how your body would respond to that. Would your body have more tension? Would your body have different breathing happening? If you could see yourself from a point of view of a fly in a wall, and that fly doesn't care about your appearances, but pays attention to your energy, what would be the energy associated with feeling fear? Would it have any color or texture or some movement associated with it? Where in your body would you find the highest concentration of such fear energy? Let's remember that. If you need to tap into the energy of fear, you know where to find it in your body. You know how to visualize the color or texture of the energy. What kind of movement does this energy have? What kind of movement it is associated with in terms of how you would move? When you are in fear, you wouldn't move like a lion walking through his hunting grounds. You probably would walk differently. Let's remember that. If you want to, you can even use a little bit of energy practice right now. Feel free to gather some of that particular energy of that specific color associated with fear in the palm of one of your two hands. If you'd hold out two hands, which one of them would resonate with the energy of fear more, right or left? Whichever hand that is, let's gather some of that energy of fear in the palm of that hand. Right. Brenda says the armpits begin to perspire and the heart starts pounding. Yes, very good. Thank you for doing such a good job connecting with that energy. When you do it consciously, guess what? You are in charge of this process. It's when it's an unconscious fear, you feel out of control. But now you are totally in control. You're doing it on purpose. And the purpose of this action is to connect with that energy, to conjure it up and gather in the palm of one of your hands. Now, by way of contrast, let's imagine a different dream. What would you like to experience instead of fear? How would you like to walk through this savannah or whatever area that you find yourself in that dream as if you own the place? If you're a lion, you wouldn't have any fear walking down the hunting trail leading to the watering hole. You're going in anticipation of a nice meal, right? So you're walking down the trail leading to the watering hole, being a lion. you have totally different energy. That energy is fear-free. You're not freaked out about how you're going to perform. You're not going to be afraid of running into some tough buffalo that is not going to be easy to kill. You're just going there in anticipation of a nice meal or whatever you would like to experience. Basically, you're focusing on that which you resonate with. You already start feeling degree of resonance, some degree of gratitude. That is how the lion feels. Even before it catches its prey, the lion already feels a certain degree of relaxation. The breathing becomes smooth and easy when you are a lion walking with a smile to the watering hole. Now let's gather some of that energy. If you imagine a fly on a wall, perceiving the lion walking to the watering hole, ready to catch something and eat it, what kind of energy would the lion have? Or what kind of energy would you want to have when you become courageous or fearless? What kind of color would this energy have? What type of density or texture would it have? What type of movement would that energy have and facilitate the movement of your whole body? Where in your body would you find the highest concentration of this fearless energy? Let's gather some of that energy in the palm of the opposite hand, as much of it or even more as compared to the energy associated with fear. Now, what we're doing next is something very simple. We don't have to manipulate these energies. We don't have to tweak them. We don't have to cultivate it or control them. We actually allow them to express themselves because there may actually be something that they don't know about each other. There may even be something that they could learn from each other if they could actually communicate. Well, how about we allow these energies to communicate either directly from one hand to the other or through the medium of your body as you're holding onto this energy. This communication can take shape and form of auditory communication. They may actually utter some words, or they may create certain sounds or vibration. They may also express themselves through movement. The two hands may move in different ways because they may not be animated by the same kind of energies. Obviously, one is animated by the energy of fear, which may feel one way and move in a certain way. The other hand may be animated by the energy of fearlessness or courage. And that may be a totally different culture of movement. So let's allow these hands to move freely, spontaneously, animated by the energy rather than trying to move it according to what we think is right or how we anticipate these energies to be expressing the movement. Instead, we actually just allow these energies to move your body spontaneously. That's right. The spontaneous movement that is informed by these two energies may at first feel somewhat clumsy because one side of the body is moving quite differently from the way that the other side is moving. And that will continue for some time while these two energies are learning from each other, beginning to understand each other better. What's going to happen if they begin to understand each other really well? If they totally get each other, if they're no longer looking at each other with some degree of misunderstanding or judgment or criticism, you are too fearful, or you are too foolhardy. Instead, they actually totally dig each other. And the more they understand each other, the more you may find that your hands are no longer facing upwards as if they're holding these two energy fields separately, but they actually start facing each other. Well, any psychologist would say facing your fears would be the most effective way to deal with fears. That's exactly what's happening. As these two hands are no longer moving in a separate manner, but actually are facing each other, these two energies start doing what? They begin to coalesce. They begin to integrate. They're no longer feeling perhaps even as two separate energies, but begin to form a unified energy field. Well, congratulations. Maybe achieving that which generations of theoretical physicists have never been able to achieve, connecting with a unified energy field. So let's allow this field of energy that has both qualities move your body in a spontaneous, unpremeditated manner. Notice how you're breathing while you are experiencing this movement of energies moving you. This breath that you're experiencing right now is not a meditation technique. It's not a breathing technique. It's not contrived artificial breathing following certain protocol or method of breathing. Instead, it's a spontaneous, natural breath, and what could be healthier than being natural? So allowing yourself to experience this natural breath, being moved by the flow of a unified energy field that you're still holding onto with both of your hands. Enjoy this dance. I bet the culture of your movement right now is much more circular and smoother and more harmonious versus the way that you were feeling and moving just a few minutes ago. I see some of you start yawning. Great. That's a natural meditative breath that happens when you experience greater sense of alignment and entrainment. That's what I call being in the flow. That's right. Just allow your body to experience this natural, spontaneous breath, whether it's just deeper and smoother breath, or you start yawning, or just have sigh of relief. Either way, that's an indication that you're entering the state of flow. Well, congratulations. When you are in the flow, that's what we call being in nirvana. You are not experiencing a nightmare in your mind. You're free of suffering. Congratulations. Welcome to nirvana, my friends. For a moment, let's just hold on to this energy. It may even have a snowball effect. It may have grown between your hands. Okay, let's hold on to it for a moment and breathe in as much air as you can into your lungs, lifting this energy field above your head. And then exhale completely, creating vacuum inside of you, and let this energy fill the vacuum going into your body and empowering each and every cell of your body. Perhaps it may also find specific area of your body that it will call home. Or it may go wherever it needs to go in your body and empower whatever needs to be empowered. As you experience integration of this energy, bring it into your body, it may also enter in a slightly altered state of mind. It's a much more empowered state of mind, isn't it? It's really hard to be afraid in this state that we just entered. This is why what we experience just following this flow of energy is something that I refer to as harmonious culture of movement that goes hand in hand with harmonious state of mind. When you're in harmonious state of mind, it's easier to experience more harmonious movement. If you consciously practice harmonious culture of movement, it's easy to maintain harmonious state of consciousness. So they go hand in hand. The mind and body work with each other. They're not two separate items. They're two sides of the same coin, so to speak. The heads and tails. And guess what? In our practice, we learn how to shift attention from just paying attention to the appearances on the side of the coin, the imprint, what the heads look like, what the tails look like. We actually learn how to pay attention to the gold that this coin is made of. What keeps the mind and body together in one living organism? It's life force. We may call it chi. This energy is what actually keeps us alive. Let's connect with that flow of energy and let's learn how to be in the flow of energy, because when you're in the flow, you experience the most profound sense of wellness and well-being. That's what we call nirvana, the state of freedom from suffering. I hope that you just experienced a little bit of that. This glimpses of nirvana is something that can eventually become more and more frequent occurrences in your life. So they don't just happen once in a blue moon. You actually learn how to be in the flow at will. As a matter of fact, that's what I teach in practice. We refer to the art of Qidao, and I'm lineage holder of Qidao. We also refer to it as the art of being in the flow. We learn how to be in the flow on demand. Whenever we choose to, for as long as we choose to, we learn how to be in that state of freedom from suffering, freedom from fear, freedom from all kinds of other nightmares that we tend to create for ourselves in our minds. We actually learn how to set ourselves on a different course in our life, free of suffering, free of fear. We learn how to be like that lion moving through the savannah, or like the eagle soaring in the sky, not constantly looking out for danger, because we realize we are the apex predators. We live our lives in a totally different sense of identity. We identify with being the hunter, not the prey. Now, that's something that I wanted to deliver to you today as something that I constantly learn and practice and embody, and help thousands of people throughout the world to do the same. We'll literally learn together how to create this kind of enlightened, empowered community of people. Because when you surround yourself with people who are fearless, don't you experience greater quality of life yourself, and also enjoy observing how other people around you live a higher quality life? Well, that's what we do. We learn how to create this kind of community and more of that sense of alignment with each other when we learn how to be in the flow together. What we just experienced for a few minutes was an experience of being in the flow together. I'm actually starting a new program, the Basic Qidao Practitioner Certification Program. It's the program that literally teaches you the art of being in the flow, Qidao. It's a basic program, so it's not something complicated. Today, what we're doing is something just giving you a glimpse of what's possible. It's one of several meditation practices that we study in our program. There are also many other practices that teach you how to develop harmonious culture of movement. The kind of culture of movement I was just talking about that actually enables your body to embody, to walk the talk, moving through life in a harmonious manner, because you are the way you move. If you move harmoniously using the principles of harmonious culture movement, you actually living your life in greater harmony. It's a lot easier to maintain harmonious state of mind when you move in a harmonious fashion. So that's something that I would love to continue working with you on. Some of the folks here have studied with me for a while, and I want to thank you, Marcia, and thank you, Aine, for being here. It's lovely to see you. If you want to unmute yourself and share your experiences, or anyone else wants to share your experiences, please don't hesitate to do that. Yeah, Marcia, you just raised your hand.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
I was pondering this, recognizing what the sensation, the experience of fear feels like, and called it something else. Like if I call it anger or if I call it embarrassment, then I'm going to respond to it. And I'm kind of questioning, wondering how many people are going through life dealing with an emotional reaction to whatever. And let's say they're calling it embarrassment. And so what I do if I feel embarrassed is going to be a certain behavior, how I'm going to think of the people that were present to my embarrassment. It's going to be a certain way of being, would be noticeably different than if I called it fear. Even though I can see how embarrassment and fear are very closely related. You know, they're in that same family, very close.
That may be one of the reasons why many people experience fear of public speaking. They're afraid of being embarrassed in public.
Sure. And that was kind of what I was putting forward, is to say something about the practice of recognizing the actual emotion you're feeling and knowing how to find its corresponding powerful, the other hand, response to the emotion that is arising. And when something is fear, you know, you address that. When something is anger or disappointment or some other not so pleasant emotion, knowing what makes sense as the other side, you know, of that coin, to pull it together.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you're quite right about how often we misappropriate our energies or misidentify our emotional states. And so one of the aspects of our studies, as you know, is exploration of different holding patterns. These are not just patterns of holding tension. Of course, it's easy to observe them because they're associated with particular types of tensions in the body, tensions in particular muscle groups in specific areas of the body, but they also correspond to certain emotional states. Different emotional states manifest somatically differently in the body. Why do we study that in the context of Qigong studies? Well, for several reasons. One is because those tensions create energy blockages, which wreak havoc in our health. And if we want to become energy health practitioners, we want to learn how to reduce and remove the root causes of our health problems. Another thing that we also learn is that different emotional states may not only manifest in the physical body, but they also have a certain holographic reflection, so to speak, in the energy bubble around us, like the Wei Qi. Wei Qi is the Chinese term for external energy field kind of surrounding your body from all sides, like an aura. Well, as you can imagine, different holding patterns may actually be associated with different shape and coloring and various other aspects of the aura. As a matter of fact, we may even be able to identify certain areas on the energy bubble around us as associated with certain states of mind. And some of these states we visit frequently. It's like we have neural pathways in our brains so developed that we can just go into those states at the drop of a hat. If somebody is really fearful, it's habitual to go into a fear state. that neural pathway is very well established. Perhaps if we want to learn how to be more courageous, well, we need to identify that state of consciousness and start revisiting it more and more frequently. So that's one of the things that we do in the more advanced levels of our training. We actually create a mind map of different states, different energy states, emotional states, states of physical tension. So what we do is we learn how to actually learn which circumstances require which state. And then we learn how to tap into those energy resources within ourselves on demand. When we do that, something amazing happens. Well, several things that happen amazingly. One is we become more resourceful. In other words, we learn how to tap into more resources at will when we choose to, when the circumstances require. We know how to tap into those resources. That means that the more resourceful we become, the more resilient we become. We actually don't feel stuck in a particular perspective anymore. If that perspective was associated with fear and we learn how to not be stuck in it, well, hallelujah, that means that we're no longer stuck in fear. And we learn how to actually tap into some other alternative ways of being. So instead of being stuck in a fear state, what state are you in? You are in some state. Obviously, every state is an altered state. And so we learn how to actually identify the more appropriate state that would work better at that particular set of circumstances. I hope that it creates a sense of possibility for you, because we literally learn how to become masterful about our energy resources, about our consciousness, and about how we embody it in our physical bodies. So that we literally learn how to be a walking manifestation of that resourcefulness, of that resilience, of that fearlessness that we study. The more masterful we become in tapping into the appropriate resources and using them when necessary, the more we're capable of being in the flow on a regular basis. If you are in the flow daily, not just waiting for it to happen or experiencing it once in a blue moon, but actually you are experiencing being in the flow on a regular daily basis, would it change the quality of your life? Of course, it's a rhetorical question, right? But it's an important question to think about, because I want you to learn how to do that at will. We have practices dedicated to it. At the end of our 3-month-long basic Qigong practitioner certification program, we'll also have a live workshop during which you'll be able to experience working with me face to face. Many of you have experienced working with me face to face on occasion. And I was just in your neck of the woods in Denmark recently, and I hope that you enjoyed working with me face to face and having some hands-on experiences as well. If you want to join this program, if you want to dive into this field of studies of how to be in the flow at will, how to live your life in nirvana state, I would certainly love to invite you to join. Just go to qidao.org, spelled Qidao. As a matter of fact, you may even be able to see it on the back of my shirt. Qidao.org, qidao.org.